All right, ladies and gentlemen, MrSotko here. Welcome back to the channel. Got a whole bunch of good crypto news stuff for you. And if you haven't already seen the articles that are just flying all over the place, this news is actually pretty big and at least very interesting. So someone just moved a block of Bitcoins first mined in February 2009. Now it's interesting because Bitcoin came out 1 month before that, and these were actually mined, I believe, February 9th, 2009, which I think is exactly 1 month after Bitcoin started to be mineable, maybe within a few days or so, the exact date. But 50 original Bitcoins moved from a wallet that has been dormant since 2009. The coins mined on block 3,654 1 month into Bitcoin's existence were sent to addresses today. One address received 40 of the more than decade-old coins, equating to $391,000. Another address received 9.99 and is currently separating the sums into smaller pieces, being sent to other addresses. Now, there is a lot more interesting things to this than just simply some old Bitcoins being moved. We'll get into that in a second. So a total of 50 Bitcoins today is somewhere around $470,000. So just 50 Bitcoins then today, $470,000. No big deal. This marks the first time since August 2017 that an account has moved coins from 2009, according to Antoine Lecalvez, lead data engineer at Coinmetrics. Some are speculating the transfer came from a wallet owned by anonymous Bitcoin creator Satoshi Nakamoto. However, these coins are unlikely to be Satoshis, according to past research looking at nonce data. And that past research was the research that found out that Satoshi likely owns 1 million Bitcoin. However, that has never actually been totally proven because it's very hard to prove that you personally mined this many Bitcoin. Now, it is very likely that, of course, Satoshi did mine a little bit just to see how his experiment was going, and that's just a given. It is interesting, too, that a documentary came out not that long ago by a YouTuber called Barely Social that ended up coming to his conclusion that Satoshi Nakamoto is Adam Back, the CEO of Blockstream. Excuse me. Thought a little bit of a mind fart there. And which is weird because Blockstream is kind of anti-Bitcoin scaling. They want to keep it down low to 1 megabyte so that they can create third-party solutions to the Bitcoin scaling problem, and then they make money off of that, which would be really weird if Satoshi essentially created Bitcoin, then gave it to Gavin Andresen, and then later formed a company, Blockstream, to essentially kind of corrupt Bitcoin in a way, which nobody really likes Blockstream. So if it was Adam Back, that's really weird. But anyway, I recommend you guys checking out that channel and checking out that whole documentary. It's 3 parts, and it's entertaining. Now, I don't know if I believe fully that Adam Back is Satoshi Nakamoto, but it is very entertaining and it's very compelling to watch regardless. The address of the once dormant wallet appears on Craig Wright's filing of claimed wallet addresses relating to his case with the Kleiman estate. Wright has claimed he is the identity behind Satoshi, and the address is one of thousands of unclaimed addresses Wright listed in the filing. However, there is substantial doubt that, of course, Wright is Satoshi, or even the owner of all filed addresses, including the one at hand. One memo.cash user created a post verifying the signature of the address and calling Wright a liar and a fraud more than a year ago. And then this was it. So when Craig Wright put all of his addresses to the court that prove, I'm going to do this really hard, that proves that he owns all of these addresses, even though anybody can just look up the Block Explorer and find a bunch of addresses that eventually equal 1 million Bitcoin. That's not really hard to do, just time consuming. Either way, let's go with it. And he said, these are all my addresses. It equates to about 1 million or 1.1 million Bitcoin. Then somebody was like, no, hey, that address that you filed on there, that's mine. And they filed and they verified the signature and was like, no, that's my address. This is what Craig Wright actually filed to the court, and this is a lot of addresses. So you're like, hey, which one is it? I don't know, you find it. It's in here somewhere. Somebody was nice enough to actually, on my Discord, send a picture here of the address in question. And this is it. This is the address of the coins that were moved. We'll actually look at that in the Block Explorer in just a moment. So the address of the Bitcoin from wallet from 2009 that just moved is listed a Kleiman versus Wright court document. Craig Wright claimed to own it, but it was locked outside of his control, aka part of the Tulip Trust, an old miner just called Craig Wright's bluff. So again, this is what Craig Wright submitted to the court. 459 pages of all of these. There are thousands of them. If you go down all the way to the bottom, there are literally 75,000 addresses. I can't even read that. 75,000 addresses in here. It just goes on and on and on. And this is what Craig Wright accumulated. So essentially he went back in time, found all of these addresses, which you can do on the Bitcoin Block Explorer, and put them all together. Altogether, these equal 1.1 million Bitcoin, and somebody essentially just called his bluff. So here's the address right here, I7 or 17XI, whatever. And if we go to the final page, we're on the final page here of the addresses. You can see in 2009, February, the 9th of February in 2009, this address generated 50 Bitcoin when mining, and just recently in 2020, these 40 removed to one address, 9.99 to another one, and then they're sort of getting dispersed to various other addresses. You can see here just sending to various other addresses, and so the total received and then the total spent. You can see this was the fee reward in 2009. Look at this is the fee reward here for the mining of 373,000 Satoshi. So very small reward. It's interesting because, obviously Craig Wright claimed this address. So he just literally, so this basically proves, along with this other one that he put on there, that somebody, actually verified the signature, and then this person actually moved theirs. Whose Bitcoin is it? Now, we don't know, right? Is this Satoshi? Is Adam Back actually Satoshi? And he's like, oh, everybody found out, I might as well move these. Or did somebody just mine these and they've just been hodling the entire time and finally was like, hey, I seen this in the memo and I'm going to move the Bitcoin just to out Craig Wright. So Craig Wright, two of the addresses that Craig Wright supposedly owns in this gigantic 75,000 addresses have been proven to actually not be him, because Craig Wright says, I can't move any of these, right? Because it's part of the Tulip Trust, and there's these magic cherub fairies that are flying around that are supposed to come on this certain date and give me the keys that are split up like a pie that a bunch of people randomly own, and I'm going to inherit 1 million Bitcoin. I've also heard another conspiracy theory that Craig Wright and Calvin Ayre have the hard drives of somebody, whether that is Paul LaRue or it's Dave Kleiman's hard drives from way back in the day, and they have been trying to actually hack them and figure out the private keys. And they're just running thousands upon thousands of CPUs trying to find the private key to these, and maybe Craig Wright just happened to crack one of these. Now, that's extremely unlikely, but I've heard those theories before, that Calvin Ayre and Craig Wright are trying to hack old hard drives to get the 1 million Satoshi Bitcoin or whatever, or Dave Kleiman's or Paul LaRue's or whoever it's supposed to be. I've heard numerous things. But very interesting. So whoever moved these, you are a well-deserved hodler. So if you are just a regular person, or if you're Satoshi, it doesn't matter. If you're watching this, you are a well-deserved hodler, and enjoy your $470,000 because you held on for 11 years. And I think that's something that you deserve at this point. So whoever it is, doesn't matter at this point. It does take away the credibility even further of Craig Wright, because so far 2 of those 74 or 75,000 addresses that he just randomly, I don't know who did it or who he paid some chump to go through and get 75,000 old Bitcoin addresses that just equate to $1.1 million. And so it's like the equivalent of finding a bunch of bank account numbers and then just putting together 70,000 random bank account numbers from 10 years ago that just equal $1 million. And then you say, look at, I'm a millionaire, or something like that. Like, it doesn't make sense. And again, I just have to say that why did he why did he give these to the court anyway? Why would you get all this together and then give it to the court when you're the defendant? You don't have to you don't have to display all this information to the court. Craig Wright, what are you doing? It just boggles my mind. But moving on to different news. In the Bitcoin world, a recently mined block contained fees totaling 2 Bitcoin. And so we're starting to see the flippening, and I actually made a video about this maybe a month or two ago, talking about the flippening of the Bitcoin fee, the actual transaction fees going to the miners, and the Coinbase fee, and not the exchange Coinbase, but the fee that you actually get from mining, or the reward that you get. So right now it's 6.25, originally started out as 50. That's the Coinbase reward. And eventually that Coinbase reward is not going to be 6.25, but it's going to be 3.12, and then lower and lower and lower. So eventually, this 2 Bitcoin is actually going to be bigger than the block reward itself, which creates sort of a conundrum. So eventually, the Bitcoin reward, far out into the future, is mere satoshis, the reward for mining, for all of the mining going on in the world. One person, or a pool, gets mere satoshis. So at that point, a pool is going to have a hard time actually dispersing those satoshis, because we're talking about hundreds and then tens of satoshis, literally. And then eventually I think it's actually 1 Satoshi. So the problem is you can't send 1 Satoshi over the net or anything like that, or over the blockchain. And interestingly, if the fees were bigger than 1 Satoshi, that would mean that you'd be paying a lot of money to send on the Bitcoin blockchain. So I think there's a scaling issue. There's also a reward issue that we're not going to see yet. We're going to see that in the future. There's going to be a conundrum in the future where the fees are so high that they're actually higher than the block reward itself. So miners are going to rely, of course, on the transaction fees. But if they're relying solely on transaction fees, those transaction fees are going to have to be worth a lot of money. And to be worth a lot of money, those individual satoshis that you're sending across the blockchain, that's going to cost the consumer a lot of money, more than it was in 2017, more than it is now. So it's interesting. So looking at some latest blocks, this is a blockchain explorer for Bitcoin. Looking at 2 of the latest blocks here, just randomly. One is 1.6 Bitcoin. So the fees are actually getting pretty high. The volume is getting pretty high right now. And the fees are actually getting close to that block reward. Wow, what a weird... 6.25 Bitcoin, the fee reward 1.6. So it's not going to be that long. A couple more halvenings. And we're actually going to be greater than the block reward itself. And that's not going to be too much of a problem at the moment. But a few more halvings after that, that block reward is going to be less than 1 whole BTC. It's literally going to start to become mere satoshis. And if the fee reward is several Bitcoin and it's just satoshis, that's going to be the fees, and the price of Bitcoin is going to be a weird conundrum. So we'll have to see how that works out, of course, in the future. But moving on to different news. So this news is also going around the world. Digital euro sees first successful test at the Bank of France. Now, this is not surprising. It shouldn't be surprising to anybody that governments are going to start looking into blockchain for their digital currency, because quite frankly, currency is already digital at the moment. If I send some money to you via my bank account, it's not like a teller is literally pulling out $50 and then walking it down the road to your bank and then giving it to that bank and they put it in the vault. Nope, it's just my number goes down by 50, your number goes up by 50. So it's essentially already digital, and the mere act of creating money physically in a big factory and then putting it in armored cars, shipping it across the world or your country, is quite a lot of money. I mean, you're paying for the materials, you're paying for the security, you're paying for the cars, you're paying for the people to make it. That's a lot of money. You're paying for the people to count it, to handle it, the weight, and it's just a waste of money anymore. Now, good old cash is great, and the privacy that it can bring just using cash, but quite frankly, it's outdated. plain and simple. And I'm not advocating for a government central currency digital, because that's kind of the great evil, because then they would know everything and it would always be on the blockchain, every single thing you ever did. Not that it kind of already isn't with bank. The FBI can just, or the NSA or somebody can just find your bank account and everything you've ever done. But it'll be even worse with blockchain. So per a May 20th announcement, the Banque de France has become the first country to successfully trial a digital euro operational on a blockchain, following a call for new technology to back such a development at the end of March. And this is why I sort of get into the fact that governments aren't going to use Bitcoin. They're not going to use Ethereum or Litecoin or something like that. They're just going to create their own. And then banks aren't going to use a created currency. They're going to use what their nation created, or the European Union or America created, the Federal Reserve, etc., wherever you're from. They're not going to be able to use Bitcoin or XRP or anything like that, because do you really think the United States or wherever you're from is going to allow all the banks to just completely circumvent their power and their money by allowing banks to use Bitcoin or something like that? And then also the corporate factor. Corporations are already starting to make, and banks are already starting to make their own cryptocurrencies that they can use. Why would you use Bitcoin that you can't control, that goes up and down all the time, when Walmart could just create Wally coin or something like that always has a stable value that can only be used at Walmart, just like a digital, just like a gift card. So the corporations are going to create the corporate coin. The nations are going to create the digital euro, the digital dollar, the digital pound, etc. And Bitcoin is going to be left for us. And unfortunately, Bitcoin has already been sort of institutionalized with futures and various investments and Wall Street, et cetera, like that. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. But Bitcoin at the moment is all we have, and that's what we're going to be using for quite a long time. Also, Visa files patent application for a digital currency. I actually looked at their patent white paper, and it's a real patent. You can just look it up, and at the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and it is a crypto white paper. It shows the transactions, etc. Visa filed for an application to create digital currency on the blockchain with the United States patent. According to the application published May 14th, but filed back in November of 2018, investors Simon Hurry and Alexander Pierre with the Visa International Service Association in San Francisco have sought a patent for a digital currency recorded on a blockchain and controlled by a central entity computer. So again, you have to ask yourself the question, what's the difference between the current digital currency that we have, like when I swipe my credit card at a store and it's just digitally taken from my account, digitally added to their account? What is the difference? Why have a blockchain? Why have a blockchain with a central entity computer when you can just use your current? So it cites Ethereum as a possible network. The application details 2 records, one of which would indicate the digital currency for an amount associated with the denomination has been created for a public key associated with a digital wallet. The other records notes the removal of physical currency from circulation in a fiat currency system. Every time a dollar worth of digital fiat currency is generated, the central entity ensures that a corresponding physical dollar bill is removed from circulation in order to regulate the value of digital fiat currency. And to do that, Visa would have to be working closely with the government, along with MasterCard, probably Discover, and the various other payment processors, because if this goes through, that would mean that Visa would be removing dollar bills from circulation, and you couldn't be able to do that without the United States government also doing that themselves. So we are seeing the digital dollar coming. We are seeing a more so digital dollar than we have now. Why they need it to be on Ethereum, why they need public keys, etc. with this, when you can just have a central entity computer controlling everything anyway. I can bring up my cell phone, I can log into my bank, that's how much money I have. It's no different than it would be on a blockchain with a central computer. So I'm not really sure their goal here. Maybe the United States is just working with payment processors in order to get rid of fiat money, which of course they want to do that. They want to remove all the privacy. They want a blockchain, so it's just always recorded. But of course, they're not going to record what they do on the blockchain. They're not going to do that. That's going to be a different thing. And then with it just on a blockchain and just us on the blockchain, the governments can do whatever they want with their made up money, that they can just do whatever and just add to digital accounts, and then they'll just be numbers. There won't actually be money backing it. So it's sort of the great evil, in my opinion. The digital dollar, the digital euro it's not good. It's not going to be good. Say goodbye to any privacy, any possible privacy in that sense. And then if you use your digital dollar to buy digital currencies like crypto, you won't be able to use fiat anymore. So I wouldn't be able to give you fiat and then you send me Bitcoin at all. So there will be no way to get money into Bitcoin or get money into something private like Monero, etc., like that, without a paper trail going into that. So that's probably why they want to eliminate any possible avenue for you to buy cryptocurrency privately. And it really just doesn't, it makes sense. But no coin market cap today. Bitcoin down to 9,400. Read a couple articles that people are selling off Bitcoin because they think Satoshi Nakamoto is starting to move his cryptocurrency. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't be that paranoid. It was probably just some guy that either just found his hard drive and was like, yes, there it is with my 50 Bitcoin, my $470,000, which congratulations. Or it was somebody just trying to troll Craig Wright and say, look, that's not his. Look, I just moved the coin. But either way, it is a slap in the face to Craig Wright, and I find it pretty funny. But that's all I have for you guys today. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. My social media in the description below. But as usual, I will see you guys next time.